Historically, in such situations, when empire is in deep trouble, the reaction has been to resort to war. War causes huge chaos in the world. In the shadow of near-global chaos, the masters have historically been able to quietly reorganize the world in ways that enabled them to gain a tighter grip on it. We are at such a stage again. The troops are already being trained. The infrastructures for war are being readied. The public has already been mentally prepared for many years. The chosen target this time is Iran, a modern nation of 78 million people, and possibly also North Korea. The official excuse for attacking them both, especially Iran, is to shut down their developing nuclear power industry. Because, as the saying goes, whoever has nuclear power also has the means to make an atom bomb. Consequently, as the world has been told, these nations' bomb-making capability needs to be prevented at any cost. Towards this end, the war option has been on the table for decades. This is the official story for the plan to bomb Iran. Evidently, this story does not reflect the real reason. The real reason becomes evident when one considers the effect that modern warfare has on the world. Modern warfare has moved beyond the use of atom bombs to destroy a nation. The modern war has become increasingly a radioactive gas war that massively disables the targeted societies with a type of radioactive poison that spreads with the air currents over wide areas. The active agent for this modern gas war is uranium, a radioactive type of poison that is created by the use of uranium weapons. When uranium bombs or munitions impact on a hard target at high speeds, the uranium, which is naturally brittle, fractures into a dust of minuscule particles in a violent fiery explosion. More than half of the resulting dust particles are significantly smaller than the wavelength of light. Like a gas, they become a part of the air and become dispersed by it globally. They remain in the air and in the environment in which all live, for long periods, if not forever. People inhale this air, and the radioactive dust particles, with it, or ingest them with their food. Uranium has been a part of the landscape of the Earth for as long as the Earth existed. We grew up with it. Its natural radiation is considered low-level radiation, as it doesn't harm us. However, for all those times that we lived in the shadow of uranium, the radioactive metal has never occurred in pulverized form with particle sizes smaller than the wavelength of light. Nothing in the world, including nuclear power reactors, produces these infinitely fine particles that become a part of the air that people breathe, which the bees and birds live in, and our food is grown in. Only high-impact uranium bombs and munitions produce such particles. And being made of uranium, which is radioactive, and has a half-life of 4.7 billion years, the resulting radioactive poison, in the air and in the global environment, remains radioactive forever. Since the bombing of Iran is once again on the horizon with a potential 100-fold increase of the radioactive poisoning of the world, it becomes necessary to explore the nature of the new uranium war, which has been intentionally obscured for obvious reasons by numerous disinformation campaigns. Contrary to the created general perception that depleted uranium is harmless, the experience since the DU wars began has been that the depleted uranium poisoning of the world has been immensely damaging. As one would expect by considering the nature of the radioactive poison that the DU weapons produce. The prepared for major increase of this poisoning, in the range of 50-fold to 100-fold, would likely be so immensely damaging that the necessary preparation of our world for the next ice age cycle would no longer be possible. For this reason, it has become critical for humanity to rapidly break out of the games of madness, like the DU wars, that have become increasingly suicidal. The clock is ticking on the war front. The preparation for the bombing of Iran is done. The political preparations are far advanced. In the USA, the transition to rule by presidential decree has already begun. This means that Ice Age challenge may be the only impetus that is big enough to get us into a breakout mode on this critical front, where nothing has caused the slightest movement for the last half a century, except to slide backwards, such as in the case of the DU wars that are already suicidal in nature. So, let's look at what is killing us on this front, where indifference is equal to committing suicide. Our survival may truly depend on our discoveries on this front. World eyes increasingly rule. What is called depleted uranium is natural uranium that has been depleted of the rare isotope U-235. Natural uranium typically contains U-235 at a concentration of 0.72%, of which 0.5% can be separated out. The rest of the uranium is considered a waste product, which however is ideal for bombs and munitions, as its great weight and density enables it to flow through steel armor and concrete, like a hot knife cuts through butter. Thus the waste that was once deemed expensive to dispose is recycled into bombs and munitions of all sizes. The extracted U-235 isotope is the valuable part. U-235 is the only element in existence that is naturally fissionable. It is separated by weight from the slightly heavier uranium U-238, which is 130 times more abundant in the world, but is deemed useless for nuclear power reactors and nuclear bombs. It is considered a waste product for this reason. It is classified as a waste because it has been depleted of all their useful stuff. However, the term depleted is a deception. U-238 does not need to be a waste product. It can be activated in a breeder reactor to become useful fuel for nuclear power facilities. A breeder reactor produces power and in the process produces more nuclear fuel than it uses up. By this process, the nuclear power fuel supply would be expanded 100-fold. What is deemed a depleted waste product is really a valuable fuel resource for an energy-rich future for humanity. Except this is not allowed to become a reality. With a powerful intervention, the masters of empire have stopped the entire process. All existing breeder facilities, such as the Phoenix facility in France, were shut down and probably demolished. Just as the American Fast Flux Test Facility in Washington State, that was designed for researching the process, was shut down and demolished in a manner that prevents it from ever being reactivated. That is how U-238, a potentially valuable fuel, became a waste product that thereby became massively available for their use in bombs and munitions. When the U-238, which is now called depleted uranium, is used in bombs and munitions, it becomes vaporized into a fine dust on impact. The impact explosion, in which the uranium itself becomes the explosive, creates temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun, in which the uranium becomes fractured into particles that are smaller in size than the wavelength of light. In this vaporized form, as an invisible dust, the uranium becomes extremely dangerous. Uranium, in any form or shape, emits nuclear radiation that consists of highly energetic nucleonic particles, called alpha particles. Alpha particles are made up of 2 protons and 2 neutrons. They are relatively large. Consequently, being large and bulky, they don't penetrate far. Thus, they pose no danger to the natural environment. Their radiation is considered weak. However, in vaporized form, when the vaporized uranium dust becomes a part of the air that people breathe, and the radioactive particles become inhaled and transported through the bloodstream to the most intimate places in the body, even inside the biological cells, their nucleonic bullets made up of the alpha radiation cause enormous internal damage. The vaporized uranium from DU bombs produces a type of radiation that is vastly different than radioactive fallout from nuclear reactors or atom bombs or nuclear medicine. The inhaled uranium dust emits a type of radiation that consists of real physical bullets. Uranium shoots off alpha particles that are chunks of an atomic nucleus, made up of 2 protons and 2 neutrons, and the guns that shoot these bullets are right inside your biology, like a gun held to your head. There is nothing comparable in ordinary nuclear radiation. The depleted uranium bombs produce vast showers of airborne cannons that are inhaled by people with the air. Since vaporized uranium didn't exist in the natural world, before the DU wars, the human body hasn't developed defenses against it, nor will such defenses be possible. Once the uranium dust gets inside of you, it can get potentially into everything, and stay there. The uranium dust particles that are generated with the use of uranium weapons are more than 50 times smaller than your red blood cells are, or a 10,000th of it in volume. It is comparable to a red blood cell, like a cat compares to a 10-story house. It attacks in our biology, like the fine sand that gets into your hair on a beach. Its minuscule radioactive cannons, when inhaled with the air, can become lodged in any place inside the body, and keep on killing things there forever as they shoot off their cannonballs, called alpha particles. A uranium atom decays by ejecting a part of its nucleus, called an alpha particle, made up to protons and to electrons. In atomic terms, that's a huge mass. The mass is ejected with a typical kinetic energy in the range of 3 to 7 million electron volts. Because of their high mass, alpha particles travel slowly, at only 15,000 kilometers per second, which is 5% of the speed of light. Being large in size, they are easily absorbed, which makes them in general not dangerous to life, unless the emitting source is ingested or inhaled. In such a case, the alpha particles become extremely dangerous. In close contact with the biological system, alpha radiation is the most destructive form of ionizing radiation there is. The Russian dissident Alexander V. Litvinenko was assassinated in 2006 with a highly powerful alpha emitter. A few milligrams of polonium-210 caused the death of this man by alpha radiation. Also, the alpha particles themselves are not the only cause for major damage to the biological system. An equal amount of damage is caused by the recoiling nucleus. After the alpha emission, its energy is especially damaging to genetic material, since the positive electric charge of the resulting transuranic elements causes them become attracted to the net negative charge of DNA, and is thus brought into close proximation to the DNA. No other form of radiation has this effect. It is estimated that chromosome damage from alpha particles is anywhere from 10 to 1,000 times greater than that caused by an equivalent amount of gamma or beta radiation, with the average being approximately 20 times. The beta radiation particle is essentially an energetic electron particle that is 8,000 times smaller and faster moving. It typically penetrates the human body without causing harm, except in high doses. It may in fact be beneficial to some degree in low doses, as are some types of cosmic ray particles. Beta radiation is the major part of the background radiation of the Earth. That transuranic nuclear waste is included in depleted uranium for weapons is evident by the fact that the uranium component of such weapons is encapsulated in aluminum, which blocks beta radiation. Gamma radiation is the most exotic of them all. Its active agent is an energetic photon. Gamma radiation is an electromagnetic phenomenon, similar than X-rays, but of a shorter wavelength, and with vastly greater penetrating power. It too is a part of the natural background radiation, though dangerous only at high dosages. That depleted uranium munitions contain gamma emitters at dangerous concentrations is evident by the fact that some soldiers sitting on boxes of such munitions in their fighting vehicles have contracted colon cancers. No practical means exist to block the gamma radiation, except lead shielding 4 meters thick, which is not practical to implement. Both beta and gamma radiation become dangerous at high doses, such as are generated with nuclear bombs. However, short of nuclear war, alpha radiation is the most damaging by far, and this is what has been vaporized into the air in quantities of millions of kilograms with the so-called depleted uranium munitions and bombs, and with no end in sight for their use against humanity. An additional type of radiation that is distributed worldwide with depleted uranium dust is neutron radiation. The isotope U-235 of uranium emits atomic neutrons at high speeds and high energy levels. U-235 is present in depleted uranium munitions and bombs. The neutron emission of U-235 presently powers the nuclear power reactors in the world. The radiation is contained there and kept safe, but when it is spread around the world in vaporized form and in large quantities, it is anything but safe.